Hi Quilty friends, I'm Belle from Seam Sew Me, and I am really excited to share with you today about a new product that I'm using. It's the Accustitch Stitch Regulator for domestic sewing machines. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to tell you a little bit about this product. I'm going to show you what's in the box. I'm going to show you how to assemble it and put it on your domestic sewing machine, and then I'm going to show you how it works. So the Accustitch system was actually developed by ABM International. Now they are the manufacturing company that also manufactures the Innova long arm system. And within that system is a digital stitch regulator. And they've taken that same system and they've put that into the Accustitch that you can actually put on your domestic sewing machine so that you can free motion quilt just like you have a long arm machine. Now, if you're like me, you may not have the space for one of those massive long arm machines, but you really want to be able to free motion quilt with a stitch regulator. So let's get started and I'll show you what's inside the box. So let's talk about each of the components that came in your Accustitch box. The first one is the photo sensor Accustitch regulator plate. That is this piece right here, and it's connected to the motion controller. So this is a really important piece and it is delicate. So when you take it out of the box, when you're putting it on machine, you're really going to want to be careful because this cord here has wiring in it and it helps one component speak to the other component. This particular piece here, this is actually what senses as you're moving when you're doing your free motion. When you slow down, it slows down. When you speed up, it speed up. So that's what's controlled right here. And this is actually going to go right here. We're going to be taking this off and this is going to go on our sewing machine here. Now for me, I have a Jukey 2020 Platinum Edition, but this works on other Jukeys as well. So that is the component that will go here. This right here will actually be Velcroed or stuck to the back of your machine in an area that's pretty convenient. The next piece is your single switch foot pedal. So you actually have your own foot pedal that comes with this. You will not be using the foot pedal that comes with your domestic sewing machine, and you have the adapter. So this will ensure that you're able to plug this into your sewing machine. You'll want to make sure when you're not using this as a free motion machine, you unplug this and you'll use your normal foot pedal when you're just doing your regular piecing and sewing. And then lastly, you've got your USB power adapter and power cord, and this is to be able to have power to all of this so that it functions. Now, if you have a Jukey and you've ordered this for your Jukey, there is one component that will be added to your box, and it is this retaining plate for Jukey models, and this will be something that we have to attach here, and that will not be in your other orders in which you're using it for a different type sewing machine. Now, one thing you will need to find is your flathead screwdriver, and that will be so we can remove our face plate to be able to install this. So those are the components, just a little bit of stuff that fits in your Accustitch box, but you're going to be able to free motion quilt just like you're on a long arm machine. So now it's time to attach our Accustitch motion sensor and controller to our machine. And this is the part where, depending on which machine you have, the directions may be slightly different. For me, I have a Jukey 2020 Platinum Edition, which is the silver one. And there's an extra part here, remember I showed you, that will have to be put onto our stitch plate. So let's get started and I will show you what you'll need to do first. So I'm going to move this out of the way. You're going to need your screwdriver, as I mentioned, to be able to take your plate off, but also you're going to need another small screwdriver that you can use to actually screw this on and to unscrew a part that is on your plate here. So first off, we're going to unscrew our stitch plate, and there's two screws here. They come off pretty easily, and just make sure you keep up with all of these screws. It can be easy to drop them and lose them in the carpet. So these are the larger ones, and you'll just set them aside until it's time to reattach this back to your machine. Okay, so I've put those out of the way, and then I'm going to remove this whole piece, this whole component right here, okay? And the purpose of this is this lifts up when it's on here to be able to get, of course, to your bobbin. So this is what's going to come off. So you're going to flip it over, and you've got this piece right here. And all of this is listed for me in my directions. This is what came with my Accustitch for my Jukey. And so it really walks you through those steps. And there are other tutorials that Accustitch has on their YouTube channel. I'll link those for you below if you need those. So what you're going to do is this particular piece right here, there is a little screw. We're going to unscrew this about 4 turns. And the reason for that is there is some pressure that's on here. And I'm going to have to do a little bit more than that. And that way we're going to reduce the tension. This is kind of like a spring. And so it's going to kind of pop over to the side. And the reason you don't want to just completely unscrew it is this whole thing could just kind of pop off and you could strip your screw there. So then we'll take the rest of it off. So this comes off, and then you've got your teeny little screw. Make sure, that's why I have a white surface here so I can see everything really well. And then this just disconnects. So you'll want to make sure you keep this and this other piece of the spring together and store that somewhere so that you don't lose it if you ever want to put all of this back on again. So I'll set that to the side. And of course we do keep the screw that we took off. So the next step is to take this, it's called the retaining plate, and this is for Jukey models. And if you'll notice, what happens is the way this is made, it's kind of tiny. There's a little hook here, and there's a little groove right there. That is going to fit into that little groove right there. And you'll get your screw, and you're going to put it in that hole. Sometimes people use a magnet screwdriver. If you have one, it can be quite handy because this screw is really small. And then you're going to want to screw that in place nice and tight. So you can see it fills in. What happens is it fills in that hole here. You see that one? It fills this in so that our Accustitch sensor plate will be able to snap into here. Okay? So the easiest way I have found to do this is to go ahead, slide your stitch plate back on like this. And again, remember to be careful. Don't get this pinched in any way or pull it or yank it, because this is how this piece speaks to this piece and vice versa. And then you're going to take your Accustitch sensor, and you can see it's got the 2 little pins here. And you're just going to want to go ahead. So you're going to put this side of the Accustitch in first. That little nub right there is going to go in first on this side. And then it just fits in like that, and it's connected. And then you've got this kind of pulled out. Now this will now be open so that you can actually put your hands in there to be able to get your bobbin out. This will lift up. You can see just like it would if I had the other plate on. It lifts up and you can pull your bobbin out. Just again, be careful that this does not get pinched or anything like that whenever you do that. So one of the things that's going to happen next is this cord here. You're going to have to think about where you want to place this. And so that it doesn't get pinched or anything like that, it's really wise to actually kind of put it underneath the bottom. And I'm going to show you the angle from the back of here so you can see that. So you can see the back of my machine here. Ultimately, how this is going to work, there's Velcro on the back. There's 2 pieces here. And what will happen is ultimately it's going to sit here for my Jukey back here like this. So the vent you've left open, and then this part will be covered with my tray. I have a So Steady table. I'll show you that in a minute. So you're going to want to make sure there's clearance. So for me, rather than putting it all along the back here, I don't want to do that, because once a year when I take my Jukey in to get serviced, I want to be able to pull this off with the Velcro, take off my Accustitch motion sensor plate, and I'm not going to send that to my dealer. I want to take that off so nothing happens to it. So my suggestion is to pull this around here and attach it to the bottom. Now this has sticky on it. I could pull this off here, but I don't want to, because then that means I'm gonna have to pull it off when I take it in for maintenance. So I'm actually just gonna pull it underneath here really gently, and I'm gonna get some tape, and I'm just gonna gently tape mine underneath there, gently, so that easily I can just pull that tape off whenever I need to remove this to have maintenance done. Okay, so now I have put my Sew Steady table back around my sewing machine. This is normally what I use when I am piecing and when I'm Freemotion quilting, and it has a lot of space. And the great thing about Sew Steady is they'll custom make these tables for you to fit your sewing machine. Mine has a really great tray where I can keep everything that I use, like my bobbins and some of my notions. So I'll put the link in the show notes below in case you're interested in ordering one of these for yours. So what I want to show you again is I have my Sew Steady table on here. It does not interfere with the cord here. So if you have your machine down in the recesses of a desk, a sewing table, sewing desk, whatever, then again, make sure this is not pinched in any kind of way. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to take mine, I'm going to use some tape, and I'm going to gently tape it underneath here out of the way. And then of course this has Velcro on the back. I'll Velcro that back here to the back, so that when I take my sewing machine in for yearly maintenance, all I have to do is pull this off. And since I have not stuck this, like by pulling that strip off, I've not stuck it to here, I actually can just pull the tape from underneath, gently pull this off, lift up my Accustitch plate, pull it off, and I can take this component off so it's not on my machine when I take it in for maintenance. So that's an important piece to keep in mind so nothing is pinched. So now all we need to do is we just need to put our screws back in here, which is what I'll do. I'll put that together, and then we'll talk about the pedal and your chargers. So I have taped my cord here all the way underneath, so you can't even see it there. But one other thing I wanted to show you was give yourself some slack, because when you're opening this up to get to your bobbin, to change your bobbin thread, you want there to be enough slack for this to not pull really tightly. So just leave yourself enough slack so that you can make sure that opens and doesn't pull your cord. And you can see I've got it taped right there. So that's one thing that I did want to mention to you. Okay, now let's get started with the foot pedal and the chargers. So now we're ready to actually plug our various plugs into the back of the Accustitch cruise controller. And what this cruise controller does is if you would like smaller or larger stitch lengths whenever you're Freemotion quilting, that's what this is for. But it's also to be able to plug in everything you need to get your Accustitch going. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that you've unplugged everything, which you should have done that when you followed the directions before you started at the very beginning. But just a reminder, make sure everything's unplugged and that your foot pedal that goes with your machine is also unplugged from your machine too. Then we're going to take the adapter here. This is the foot pedal adapter, and we're going to plug it in to where your normal foot pedal would go, and then we're going to plug it into the top of your cruise controller. That's going to go there. Then we're going to take your USB power cord and your adapter here that's going to plug into the wall. This is going to give you power to the machine itself. So what you're going to do with this is you'll unwrap it, and they actually give you two sizes. This is the shorter size. I'm going to use the longer version because this is going to plug down back behind my sewing machine into a surge protector. Make sure it's plugged into a surge protector, because if the electricity went out, you know, it could damage your machine. So this piece right here You have to make sure it's turned the right direction, and that's going to snap right in there. And then this is going to plug down into a surge protector down on the other side of the machine. The next step is you've got your foot pedal. Now normally your foot pedal is plugged here, but with the Accustitch, remember you've used your adapter, you're actually going to plug it into the bottom hole. It snaps there. And then this will actually come down to the front of your sewing machine, and this will be your pedal that you use when you're Freemotion quilting. So you may be wondering, well, what if I don't want to use the Accustitch when I'm Freemotion quilting and I just want to go back to normal piecing using my machine? What you'll do, it's very simple. Make sure your machine is turned off. You're going to unplug the foot pedal adapter. Remember this cord? Just unplug that. And then you're also going to unplug your power supply. This is your USB power supply that you unplug from the surge protector. And then you just kind of keep this out of the way. That way you don't have to keep unplugging and replugging all of this back here. You actually just unplug those two things. And then you'll plug your normal foot pedal that came with your sewing machine back in this slot here. And then when you want to switch back to Freemotion quilting again with your Accustitch, you'll plug in the Accustitch foot pedal adapter, and then you'll plug back in your USB power supply to your surge protector, and you're ready to go. You're ready to use your Accustitch for Freemotion quilting again. Okay, so now that we have our Accustitch all set up, I am going to show you what it does. So you can see here, there are the sensors that are going to be able to see when I am moving this, and it will speed up or slow down. On the back of my machine, I've regulated the stitch length that I would like. And I want to show you, this is my Sew Steady glider, and I keep this on my machine because I like to have the, to show me where the 1/4 inch mark is, and this is how I sew. With this Sew Steady glider, normally the hole is from here, this line, all the way to here. So it only goes around my stitch plate. But what I did was I went ahead and cut out about another 1.5 inches with a pair of scissors and just made this hole larger. So this is a glider as well. So that way your fabric moves really nicely and smoothly. Rather than not having this on, you don't have the smoothness that you will when you have some type of glider, Freemotion glider on there. So this is my Sew Steady glider. It comes in 2 sizes, this large size and then a smaller size. I'll put the link in the description box below if you're interested in getting one of those, whether you're using it for this purpose or not. But if you do have one of these, or you do get one, you'll just need to cut about an extra 1.5 inches on this side so that your motion plate can actually be seen. Okay, so I have on the Freemotion foot that I want to use. My Jukey came with a box of 5. I like this one because I can see this open here. It's kind of a circle shape, a half circle. I can see where I'm going. And so what I'll do, I've just got a sandwich, a practice quilt sandwich here. And I'm going to put this underneath here. And I'm not like any kind of Freemotion expert at all. I would still consider myself a beginner, very much a beginner. And I have done it some on my domestic machine, but it has been a bit frustrating because I don't have a stitch regulator. Well, now I do with the Accustitch. And let me tell you, I've been playing with this. It's been a lot of fun as I'm learning to get really smooth with using this. It's so much easier than not having one. So what you'll do is just make sure you've got your everything plugged in, turned on. Make sure your feed dogs are lowered. And I will just go ahead and put my needle down. And I will use my tweezers here. And when you do that, you can pull up the bottom bobbin thread. You want to go ahead and pull that up. And I'll put both of those back behind here. Put my needle down. And then I'll show you how this works. So the faster I move, the faster it moves. The slower I move, the slower it goes. And actually, let me get my gloves here. I have some really great, I forget sometimes to use these. These are, they're called Grip and Stitch, and they're quilting discs for Freemotion quilting. And that way you don't have to use gloves. So if you need to be able to cut strings really quickly, because I use these snips right here, I don't have to worry about taking gloves off. If I'm trying to get my finger in a pair of scissors, I just use these paddles right here like this. So you just literally hold them like this, and it really kind of keeps your fabric in place as you go. So I'll link those for you below as well. And when I slow down, you notice it slows down. You can draw things with it because it goes at the pace just like you were drawing with a pencil if you want. You see how slow I'm going just because I'm trying to be kind of precise. And I have my foot pressed all the way down on the pedal. So my foot is pressed completely down on the pedal. You stop and start by using your hands, by stopping and starting, because this is reading. Underneath here is reading. You're stopping and starting with your hands. So you see how that works? So again, you can draw. This is just my version of a little butterfly. And you see how slow it'll go. If I'm going slow, it'll go slow. If I move my hands fast, it'll go fast. Which is nice because when you're new at this and you're getting used to like how to move your fabric underneath here, it's a little bit of a learning curve just with Freemotion in general, because you know I'm very much learning different shapes and patterns. And so lots of times I found when I was using my Jukey without a stitch regulator, then it was just very difficult because I was controlling everything with the pedal, my stitch length and width, all of that was just really messed up. It was a challenge for me. But with the Accustitch, it's literally like there's kind of a laser reading how fast and how slow you're moving your hands. And then you can literally Freemotion just like you were using a sit-down long arm or a large long arm. You can even, I've been practicing spelling my name, which I kind of have to slow down a little bit for. There you go. You can even spell your name. So this is how the Accustitch works. I think it's a great product. It's something that I've wanted because I did not want to buy a big long arm machine, but there are times I want to be able to free motion my quilts. Sometimes smaller things that I'm making, and this just makes it a lot easier. And then I plan on using it also sometimes for my larger quilts when I have time. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial about the Accustitch, how to put it together and how to use it. I'll have all the information below in the show notes for you, all of the links that I promised you. And until next time, quilty friends, make lovely things.